Gridiron Warrior podcast is built for strength and football coaches who want to run the best possible programs for their athletes and their communities. Each episode delivers simple, practical coaching advice that transfers straight from the weight room to the field. No theory, no fluff, no fancy words, just real world strategies from coaches that are living it. So you can build stronger, faster, more durable athletes at any level. From the beginning, I've committed to only bringing on sponsors that I myself use and would confidently recommend to any coach. And that's why I'm fired up to partner with TrainHeroic. TrainHeroic is the platform I use to write programs, run my own training, and deliver workouts to athletes and whole teams. It's clean, it's coach friendly, and your athletes are actually going to go in the app and use it and enjoy it, compared to some of the other ones that are out there. If you're a strength coach looking for a better way to program and get that information to your athletes, or if you're a coach and you just want, plug and play, ready to go training programs that you don't have to build, TrainHeroic is it, okay? And here's the kicker for anyone that is a supporter of the Gridiron Warrior. Start a free 90-day trial of TrainHeroic using the link, trainheroic.com/Gridiron Warrior, and I'll drop 2 12-week training programs right into your account so that you don't have to start from scratch. You can start with 2 12-week programs built in there, tweak them, change them, customize them, and get a good feel of using the app. And those will be in there for you, so you can use those. So head to www.trainheroic.com/Gridiron Warrior, start your 90-day free trial, and reply to your welcome email saying that you want those 2 12-week training programs from me, and I'll make sure you get those. Today's episode features Coach Bill DeLongis from Trinity College, a little bit of a D3 powerhouse up here in New England. They're 32-4 in the past 4 years here, so they're doing something right. And I brought Coach on today because I think he does a great job with his football program, and we're going to talk about, now that their season's over, what are you doing training-wise? What are you doing sets and reps, programming? What's important? So we go over that. And then we spent a little time talking about strength on the gridiron, which is his off-season collection of getting some really good coaches together like myself and presenting on a number of different topics. So we talk about both those things today. Stay tuned and hope you enjoy. All right, we're back for another episode of the Gridiron Warrior podcast. Today, I have Coach Bill DeLongis from Trinity, right up the road from me, another New England school. We love that. Coach, start us off. Tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit more about Trinity. Tell us about the season. Any background you want to know, as many chapters of your story you want to share, feel free.
All right. I'll make this brief. I love listening to podcasts where a guy starts off, I'm going to make this brief. Then it's like 12 minutes in, you got his.
We keep this thing like 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, I've listened to the first 3 episodes. Trinity College, been there. It's my 11th season here. Before here, Stony Brook University, I interned there. I volunteered there. And then I was an assistant for a couple of years, helping out with football, leading a few of my own teams. Prior to Stony Brook, in between my internship and my full-time job, I was the head strength coach at Converse University down in South Carolina. At the time, it was a women's-only college. I was there for just over 2 years before Stony Brook brought me back in a full-time role. I was like 23, I believe, when I got that job. So I was like a 23-year-old head strength coach at a Division II school, not really knowing what I'm doing, just learning from the mistakes I made. And here I am, just finished my 10th season, football due to the pandemic, wrapping up one of our seasons, killing one of our seasons. So 10 seasons and 11 years with Trinity football. We've won 6 championships in our 10 seasons since I've been here. So a little bit of a dynasty of NESCAC football.
And for my non-New England people, because we do have some people all across the country here, explain the NESCAC a little bit for those who don't know about the NESCAC.
I don't know who coined this, but I've heard people call it the Little Ivies. So they have lots of rules, lots of restrictions. We don't get to go to the playoffs. We don't play any out-of-conference games. So we have a 9-game schedule, round robin. We have 10 teams within our conference that have football, so we play all those, so 9 games. Next year, we'll be able to make it to the D3 playoffs. The champion will get an automatic bid into that, so that's exciting. It's a very high academic school. We didn't even have spring ball up until a couple of years ago, so pretty much our season, training camp is 3 weeks into a 9-game season, and then football was done. So they had 12 weeks of football out of 52 weeks, and the rest of it was really just working with me. Our kids typically go home for the summer, so I really don't have training groups in the summer here. Our juniors go abroad. Almost all of our juniors will go abroad in their spring semester, so it's a different animal. We do have spring ball now, but it's it's just helmets. So there's no actual hitting really going on. It's basically just like 7-on-7 and installing, our offense or our defense if anything's changing up for the next year. So, yeah.
And being a D3 guy myself, I've been there, and it's not easy, especially as a strength coach, with the amount of limitations that are there, and the amount of, like, there's high school programs that play a lot more football than D3 schools play football, So blessing and a curse, they get to spend more time with you per se, but then it's also on the same side, it's not mandatory, right? The D3 level, we can't make them come in, hopefully you have a good culture and they want to come in and they want to do those things. But it sounds like, and from what I've seen on social media, you've built a great program there, and the kids are getting after it. Kids are getting better every single day.
Yeah, it is optional in, outside of the in-season and outside of spring ball. Spring ball, it does become mandatory again, but it's pretty damn rare that we have a guy miss. We try to create a good culture. We don't really do early morning things here. Typically, almost all our workouts for the football team are done at 4:20 in the afternoon or somewhere in like the mid, like 5:30 range. So there's really not an excuse. The guys aren't sleeping in and sleeping past our lifts. We try to lift in the late afternoon so they can just go right to dinner afterwards. And then, we'll incorporate spring competitions where if they do miss a lift, it's hurting their chances. Anything we can do to incentivize guys and get them competing in the weight room to have them show up.
And then, I brought you on because I want to talk program, and I like the way you program. I like the videos that I watch. I know you guys are doing a good job there. Before we do that, though, you just got a new weight room or a renovation to it. You blew it out. It's big time. Talk about that. Talk about maybe some of the big things on there, because we've had some weight room renovation podcast episodes, and it's something a lot of people want to do, a lot of people need to do, but it's not easy to get done. So just give us, maybe, I don't want to go too far into that, but give us a little some details about that, because it looks nice.
Yeah, we added an addition to our athletic building that included a student fitness center. So we got to take the old student fitness center, as they call it. It is ours now. It is massive. It's actually an old Olympic-sized swimming pool that they filled in. So whatever the hell those dimensions are, you walk in, we have like the deck where people would be the spectator deck. That's like on our cardio area in our offices. So it's like a unique setup. You walk in and you kind of just look down upon everyone. No one can hide. There's no pillars, which is awesome. Just a huge, awesome, big rectangle. We got turf in there. Being in New England, it's tough to get a field sometimes. We don't have an indoor, so we have Sorinex. We actually just moved all our old equipment over. And then thanks to our football coach who kind of spearheaded some fundraising, we have raised quite a bit of money. That we got a big Sorinex order coming in December. We just picked up 2 Hawkins force plates with that fundraising money. So yeah, it's a special weight room, and it's athlete only for a Division III facility. Yeah, we're very blessed.
Yeah, that's hard to come by. I mean, even a lot of D2 places and stops I've made along the way, I've seen it where it's, you're sharing it with Campus Rec and you're splitting it with other parts of campus, and it's like, no, you come into the swimming pool. Now, you don't call it the swimming pool. What do you call it?
We call it the Trinity College Strength and Conditioning Center.
Oh, I thought you'd have a better nickname than that.
No, it's named after one of our old ADs, the Hazleton Strength and Conditioning Center. We'll be getting a sign up, but we used to have a coach come into our old closet, dungeon weight room, and he would be like, "Here's the Trinity College Strength and Conditioning Center." He would say that's all our recruits. So me and my old assistant, just kind of mocking him. We just kind of coined it that, because it was not a center. I mean, it was like a tiny ass little room. So.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Awesome. All right, so we're going to talk about the end of the season today, and for a lot of coaches out there, right? Thanksgiving, for me, at least being in Rhode Island, high school football always ended right around Thanksgiving. You played a Thanksgiving game and it was done. So high school is right around this time. Some teams have already started playoffs and things like that. College for you guys, right? Shorter season, so you guys are done. We've got 2 weeks left in our regular season, then we're getting into playoffs, and we don't know how long our postseason could be. But for a lot of times, there's that awkward window of, hey, we're not ready to start, our full off-season program or our full off-season workouts. Or we don't want to get too far into it because reading week, final exams, and then the kids are going home for winter break. So it's like, it's not enough time to maybe get a true 6-week cycle in, 8-week cycle in, and really make some serious change. But there are certain things we want to check off during this postseason period. So start off, first question that comes to my head is when you get to the end of the season, what are you thinking about from a programming perspective? And then maybe, what are you thinking about in terms of kids? Because I always think about the starters, and I think about them differently than maybe my red shirts or my guys who didn't play.
Yeah, I'll start with the last part of that. Everyone will do the same thing when we come back from our week off. So We just wrapped up Saturday. They'll have all this week off is all optional. We'll have a few guys come in here and there, but we'll start back up next week, and everyone will be on the same program because we call them the bonus boys. Those are our guys, your Devo group that most colleges will call. We call them the bonus boys. They just pretty much did like a off-season program for the last 8-9 weeks of our in-season, but they've been training alone on separate days. Obviously I'm there with them, but they haven't trained with our upperclassmen, so they need to work with those guys now. So they'll hop in and they'll kind of just reset and start off with like a traditional off-season that we would operate here. Even though they probably could handle a little bit more, but I do think training as a unit at this time of year is very important. So what do you want? You want to hear what some of the stuff we're going to be banging out? Is that what the original question was?
Yeah. Either tell me, like, what are things that are important to you? Are you thinking
important
about,
to me.
are you going lighter? Are you going restoring range of motion? Are you trying to get some strength back? Let's say you have, let's say it's a minimum 4 weeks, like a good phase. You got a good phase right now. What are you doing in that phase?
Yeah, I am definitely trying to put some muscle back on some guys if they lost any weight in season, which typically happens with some of our linemen. So we're trying to put on some good solid mass on them. We're trying to restore some range of motion if anything was lost. We do a lot of long duration isometric type work in this first phase to get some range of motion back. We'll put them in some extended range of motion. Front foot and rear foot elevated split squat has been a pretty big staple in our first phase coming out of the in season, trying to get a little bit more length and that back hip flexor, as well as just like kind of clean up any maybe patellar tendonitis type issues. Also a little bit of the mental toughness component of it. The energy is typically very high when we're doing these. We call them loaded stretching. And we'll do a variety. Typically every day we're going to do something for the lower body, and then something for the front side. So like we might hold the bottom of a push-up, hold the bottom of a chest fly on a different day, try to get some length in the pecs. And then typically for the back, we're either doing overhead holds like a dead hang or a pullover hold, trying to get some length in the lats, or we're holding the top of a row, just kind of looking at like posture of just trying to get some more retraction, pull the shoulders back. So we'll typically pick one lower body exercise, one upper push, one upper pull. We'll RPR and then we'll bang that out. And like I was mentioning, the energy is typically pretty high because these guys have not really been in that lactic environment very much. So especially some of our linemen having to hold their body weight up. Guys are yelling, guys are screaming. We go partner based, so it'll be an I go, you go. So I might hold my left leg with an iso split squat for a minute. You're my partner. You're holding me accountable to making sure my knee is below the level of the blocks. You're cheering me on. You're pushing me, trying to get me to stay into that position and lock it in. And then I return the favor right back to you in the next minute. So it creates good teammates, as well as, open some range of motion up. The blood flow restriction does a lot of things, like, stimulates growth factors like IGF-1 for hypertrophy. You don't really think of that because there's no movement as hypertrophy, but it's like wearing blood flow restriction cuffs while doing that exercise. So that's a staple. We've been doing that one for years. It's a love-hate relationship for the guys, but luckily for me, I get 3 weeks. So we'll bang out 3 weeks, and I will typically give them their first week or two of winter break to continue it on. I typically will go with like 4 weeks of that. After we get through that, and that's basically our warm-up. We'll RPR, we'll hit that, and then we're going into more of hypertrophy style lifting. We will either use like hypertrophy clusters, if you're familiar with that, Jake Tura inspired. That works out pretty well because that is typically about a 8-9 week program. And that will, if we start that our last 3 weeks, they pretty much could take that home and finish that program out over winter break.
I want to talk more clusters here, but I don't want to lose my question about the long duration. So
yes.
The longest you'll go is about a minute.
Yeah, we typically will cap it at a minute. We'll go minute on, minute off. I go, you go affair. Sometimes we've created circuits in years past, just depending if, we had a ton of guys in the space. Yeah. So it might be like I go iso split squat left, then I go to a dead hang, then I go to a push up, and then I hit my right leg. Just really depends on the logistics of the space that we have. But in a perfect world, I would just knock out my split squat, 3 sets per leg of a minute hold. And if I knock out 3 sets of a minute hold, then the guys are progressing with weight in the following week.
I love it because this is something I've always struggled with. I see on social media the benefits of 3-minute isos, 5-minute isos. I can't get the kids to do that though, because it's such an amount of time. These kids can't go 20 seconds without being on their phone. So the fact that they're in the weight room without it for the first part is like the attention's already lost. one thing we've had success with is going loaded for a couple sets of 30 seconds early. And then we finish with the unloaded, hey, body weight split squat for a minute. And mentally they're like, oh, this is a lot easier. I can hold it for a minute. And then meanwhile, I'm like, that's what I wanted the entire time. But the one thing you said that I love is the teammate aspect, because you see it a lot when they get to the end of the season. There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of what can I do better? How can I play next year? There's a lot of me mentality going on. Coaches are gone recruiting, so the coaches aren't echoing those teamwork and team camaraderie things. So I love the point you're saying there about you still got to be a great teammate. You still got to be connected. And the weight room is like the only time where they're going to do that, because they're not going to have team meetings. They're not going to have practice anymore. So it comes down to the weight room. So I just love that piece there. I love that you mentioned, doing team stuff, because it really is the only time they're going to do some team stuff, because coaches are going to be out recruiting and all that.
Yeah, it's great too, because the seniors are typically done.
Yep.
Ton lifting. So now it's the juniors. They're like, we want to take over. This is our team now. And they want to start being leaders. And there's always a few guys that, they got maybe a little agenda of being named captain, and they're going to start bringing the rah-rah. And, after a time off, especially this year for us being co-champs and really not being co-champs because we lost to that team, weird NESCAC rule, like guys are going to come in hungry after this first week. So why not kick them in the teeth a little bit and give them something hard? Because, the first couple of days coming out of a disappointing season, like I hate to say, it was a little bit of a disappointing season for us this year. Guys are going to be fired up to get back in there. So
I always say
we can do hard things.
This is a great time of year too for some of those guys who want to step up, that don't necessarily know how, to have that conversation with you and say, hey, I want to make the jump next year. I want to be more involved. I want to be a leader. How can I do that? And that's when you say, well, you can start by making sure everybody in your position group comes to lift, even though it's optional. You're the one that you can take a look at the attendance. I know, hey, it's over there. I'm not saying it's over there though. If you want to go take a look at it and see who's been coming in and who hasn't. Before they come back, maybe for spring semester, second semester, coaches back, coaches laying the law and expectation, that gives a player run program a chance to be player run by themselves and say, hey, you want to take over? You want to replace? We've had some great seniors and great leaders here. Here's what they did. This is what you can start doing to take over. So that time of year is important too, not just for the lifting piece, but kind of starting to feel out some of the pieces and say, who's coming in, who's going to step up and replace some of the spots that we have.
Yeah. And we'll have like 5 or 6 groups in a day of football guys coming in doing this. So, and I might have, the way we operate, I might have other teams that I work with, so I can't stand over and micromanage all the things. So I'll pick a junior that I think is ready to step up, or maybe already has stepped up, and they might, take the timepiece and run. Yeah. All right, everyone, left foot forward, down, and like actually lead the session like they're a strength coach, giving those guys leadership opportunities.
Awesome. All right, let's get back into hypertrophy clusters, because I hate them. And the only reason I hate them is the time component. It takes way too long. And then the part of me is like, man, if we're going to do this, then every set should be just close to failure anyways. So tell me why I should be doing them, because I'm just like, I'm not sold.
Man, I mean, the quality reps is much higher than banging out a set of, 8 to 12. I'm not saying I only will do hypertrophy clusters. That's just kind of what we're going to be banging out this year. I would say most of the off seasons before I knew what hypertrophy clusters, we just did like classic, like 40 to 60 second long sets with maybe a slight tempo method to it, and having like a 3-second eccentric for, maybe a set of 10 or 12. But yeah, I like the hypertrophy cluster method due to you're still going to grind a little bit towards the tail end, but I feel like the quality of the reps, especially early on, if you're doing 8 sets of 5, if I'm trying to get the guys to do it at the exact same weight for all 8 sets. The first handful of sets, we still have some pop on the bar. We're still moving it explosively. It's done a little bit safer than grinding out that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th rep if we're doing your traditional like 3x12 or 4x12. So I like that. The rest is short, so it really doesn't take that long. It takes the same amount of time if I was going to do 4 sets of a higher rep as opposed to doing the 8s, because it's 60 seconds rest. So ideally, you're 2 guys in a rack, maybe 3 and you're like a pit crew changing weights if we got to change weights. But I just love it for the quality and how fast it really can be. You could bang out a set of 8x5 in like 12, 13 minutes.
Now I'm busting your chops about the clusters a little bit, but we're honestly doing them right now. Last phase of the regular season here for our Debo dogs. So Friday morning they come in, and I've just felt like, have we been getting stronger? No doubt. They're pushing weights. They're coming. They're doing all the right things. But these kids just move so methodically, and they're just very comfortable. Even though it's 6 a.m, I feel they want to get up and get going and go get breakfast. But these guys are like, no, we'll be here for like 2 hours if you let us. So I'm like, all right, enough's enough. We're gonna go with some hypertrophy clusters. We're doing 6x5, 8x3, 10x2, or something like that. Some sort of progression for the next 3 weeks. But just, we call it EMOM instead, because I'm like, every minute on the minute. Let's go. Let's get it going a little bit. And Coach Noah, my assistant, he runs that Devo group down there, and I take all the injured guys, all the upperclassmen that are in that Devo group. And the freshman, he restarted them halfway through the other day because he was like, this is not it. This is not the speed we need to go. But I think it's a great idea to get them moving with a sense of urgency too, because when the off season comes and when we get back second semester and they got to get back in with the big dogs and the whole group, they don't have 2 hours anymore to sit there and hang out and wait for their next set. And you got to go, especially in a college weight room. Like there's got to be a sense of urgency at all times. So something that I do like the clusters for that, because you have no choice. You cannot take you are not an Olympic lifter, buddy, unless you're putting 405 on for your 8x5. I'm not going to let you rest for 2 minutes, 3 minutes in between each set. So
yeah, there's a conditioning component to it, especially
a little bit.
If we're doing this on a squat or deadlift, trap bar deadlift, something like that, your heart rate is up, you're sweating. But yeah, just like you said, teach the guys to train fast. Also, I mean, in my experience, like the buy-in's been pretty high with the teams I've done this with, and I need the buy-in to be extremely high leaving this 3-week phase that I have. I want these guys at the end of the 3 weeks to start looking in the mirror and being like, oh shit, like I'm putting on some size here. I want to continue to do this program when I go back to my civilian gym for the next 5 weeks. So I need these guys excited when they leave about doing what they're doing. So getting a pump and looking good, I mean, that's definitely going to be a little bit of the goal in these 3 weeks that I have.
I think that's a huge piece right there. And whether coaches want to admit it or not, my favorite is the college coaches that are out there that think their kids are doing every single lift on the packet every single day to a T. I'm not going to name names here, but we had a different sport coach, and I said, what percentage do you think your team did the winter break packet? And they said 100% compliance. And I'm like, your team barely trains twice a week to begin with. Do you really think that they trained a 3-day, 4-day winter break packet? Come on now. So you got to get them to fall in love again with training. And for some guys, it's hard to do, especially after a long season or they're banged up and they're beat up a little bit and the shoulders are achy, and you got to get back into it, because in my opinion, winter break is almost more important than what they do when they get back on campus. Because when they get back on campus, there's more distractions, there's schoolwork. At my level, I don't know if you guys have it in the winter or spring, but we have mat drills and things like that where those things can take away from the gains you're trying to get in the weight room. But winter break is your time, and it's a long stretch. It can be, if your season ends early, you could have almost 12 weeks from the end of the season till second semester to put on some serious size and put on some serious strength as well. So you got to convince them, like, hey, I know you don't feel great. I know the season was long, but like, let's get back into lifting. Let's get back into the routine and get back into the joy of like being in here. Because like you said, if you get some quick wins before they go home for winter break, they're more likely to do that when they're home for winter break.
Yeah. Yeah. The loaded stretching is not going to be a quick win, just for any of the listeners out there. But you can bang out a 4 week phase and then take it out of your program. And some guys will love it. Because, I mean, I've had plenty of athletes come back and be like 2-3 weeks in being like, holy shit, my knees. Can I curse on this?
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
All right, because I already have multiple times.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, they're going to start feeling their knees feeling better, and their body's going to feel better after suffering for a few weeks. So there might be a little buy-in there.
There's a little commitment factor. You got to convince them, like, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but I promise you're going to feel better. And one thing we've done with our starters and our guys, our high minute guys, is 1x20 method with them. So, we may not necessarily get back into, for our Devo guys and things like that, we'll do a lot of the Badger protocol. I think I've talked about it before, but, pause rep, regular reps, another pause rep. So we're spending some time in that bottom position. We'll do that with squat, bench, split squat, all those things. But for our older guys, like 1x20, and just get them back into moving, get them back flowing again, get some weight in their hands, or get a bar on their back again for the first time in a while. A couple weeks of that, and then they're like, hey, I feel good now. I'm ready to get back onto the traditional program. And my winter break program is notoriously hard. So if I just send them right into that, they won't make it. They won't feel good going into it. And they're not going to finish it because they're going to be like, I don't feel ready for this. A couple weeks of 1x20, guys are like, all right, I'm ready for the next thing. And maybe it's because the weights are so light and they're just like, I want to put some weight on my again.
Yeah, I haven't done 1x20 with football here, but I've done it with plenty of other sports. And I do it with my women's lacrosse team almost every single year. We'll actually start the school year off with that program because by the end of them doing it, they know pretty much every exercise, basic core lifts that we're going to do, barbell based. They know every single lift. And then the rest of my life is so easy. It's like a tough 2 weeks for me coaching them up on every little thing, but once you know it, you know it. So.
And for the people out there, I've always had better success, picking 8 to 10 things and not necessarily doing the traditional, hey, 30 exercises, you're going to do it 3 or 4 times in a week, but picking about 8 to 10. And I like to do at least one set of 10 prior to that so they can start feeling out the weight and be like, okay, was that weight like good? Do I need to do that weight for 20 or do I need to bump it up? Because sometimes if you're just like 20 on this, 20 on this, 20 on this, they completely undershoot it and they have no idea what weight to pick. Or they overshoot it and they only get like 12. And you're like, okay, dude, this was not ideal at all. So for the coaches that want to do 1x20 or want to know more about it, I like starting with a set of 10 on everything, go around the room, get a feel for what's going on, and then pick the right weights and get after the 1x20. And if we do progressive, we do a warm-up set of 7, and then we do 14s. Then we do, 1 or 2 warm-up sets of 6, and then we go down to 12. So if I ever want to, I have a 3-phase progression for it. But usually after that cycle, 3 weeks of 1x20, people are ready to go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely recommend looking into it. I believe Dr. Michael Yessis created that. Yeah, barbell-based movements. I'm just talking to your audience now, like I'm the host. Yeah, like I would totally check this program out. It's definitely worth having in your toolbox, especially with a younger athlete or a guy coming off a season for sure.
Let's get out of the weight room though, and let's talk about some field stuff because this is an area where some people are like, they just spent, from August all the way to the end of the season on the field. Like they don't need to go back outside. They don't need to be on the field. But I think there's some value in doing some of those things. And maybe it's just your warm up is maybe in an open space or on the turf if you have some indoor space to warm up. But what are some things movement wise? Are you going back and you're teaching sprint mechanics? Are you going back? Are you still touching max V once a week? Is that something you care about right now? Or are you taking a step back from those things? Maybe not contact prep, but as I've talked about in the contact prep course, there's still a lot of other activities that are very beneficial you can be doing in phase 1 of reintroducing contact. So get out of the weight room. Let's talk about the other stuff. What things are you thinking about there when it comes to after the season and trying to reintroduce?
Yeah, for this 3-week phase that we'll have coming up, I probably won't. I haven't fully finalized what I'm going to do, but it's pretty rare that I'm having them sprint and jump right off the bat. Over winter break, we will start easing back in. I usually give options based on, we got some guys living in Maine, Massachusetts, might be snow on the ground. So I'll kind of create like a little bit of menu for them. Might be treadmill sprints or get on a field if they can. But we give them a menu and we do get them running about 3-4 days a week if possible, or biking, whatever we can get them doing, just some type of cardio type work. But then when they come back I basically pretend like everyone did nothing. And I know you're a fan of it, but we'll do the 10x10, Derek Hansen's 10x10. We start end of January when they come back. We will hit that up for about a 3-week phase. Similar, I've heard you talk about it. I actually took your idea about kind of doing like the S curves with it. I've done it with sleds, done it with our run rockets. We're varying it up each day, but we'll start introducing sprinting via the 10x10 method, and we'll typically week 1 probably do 2 sets and then hop up to 3 sets of 10-yard sprints. We're also typically on one of our days, we'll do some of the 8-vector change of direction circuit. So we'll try to get that going. I can't do all 8 vectors within my space, but we'll get as many of them as we can. And that will be like usually one of our station-based workouts. We'll have like a kind of a 4 quarters system where one of the 4 quarters is the 8-vector change of direction tempo runs. So that's kind of our reintroduction to cutting and sprinting is with those 2 methods. The 8-vector system by Nick DeMarco, I can't recommend that book enough. I don't think it's actually called the 8-vector system. I think it's got a different name to it, but that book is tremendous. And then we're doing a lot of extensive plyos. Just again, taking a lot from Nick and Jordan with their book. I follow it to a T. Doing the 135, the 90, the 45 degree, and the 0 degree. So we'll go extensive in nature, and then over the course of the spring, we'll build to the intensive that they talk about in their book. We'll also throw in some deep tier plyometrics as well. Those seem to be a pretty hot item on the Instagram world. But I've had some pretty good success with the deep tier plyos as well with some of my teams here. So that's typically how we're getting back into more of your traditional explosive and sprinting type work.
I was going to say I do a lot of similar things in terms of we actually will, we'll do the 10 by 10 stuff and we'll put that as part of our athletic development. Just hit that one set. And I'm not asking for 3 sets of 10, but one time let's do 10 by 10, kind of unpaced. And one thing we've done too is to reintroduce sprint mechanics. We've done a 10 by 10 of a march. So they just go back and forth 10 times, a march, and then, go do some box jumps, go do some extensive plyos, come back later. Now it's a skip 10 by 10, go back to it, and then come back and do a true 10 by 10 where you run it. So trying to like reintroduce some of the patterns and stuff like that. And then I'm with you. Like I'm big extensive plyo guy. The deep tier stuff, again, I gotta dig through it one more time. I had one of my assistants kind of break it down and put a presentation together for me because I was like, dude, you tell me what I should be doing, I'll do it. And I got to go through it myself and just be like, okay, I feel good about it. But I think there's some value there in getting in some of those deeper ranges, getting in and out of those, especially for our big guys. They spend so much time in stances that are just not, there's no depth to them. So let's get them in uncomfortable places there and do that. And then if we are doing any sort of plows, it's low impact stuff. Like we'll do box jumps and we'll go a little higher in volume than most people. We'll do 3 by almost like 8 to 10. But I'm going to have them step off the box, walk back around, come back up again. I'm not rushing that. I'm not trying to push the pace on that. But I do want to build that volume back up because I'm a little more aggressive second semester in terms of the amount of plyos that we are going to do. And we do a lot of 8-vector stuff as well. And I just saw Nick last weekend. He's the man. But when we're doing all that 8-vector stuff, I found if I don't give them enough plyos over winter break and if they're not doing enough plyos, they get beat up pretty quickly to start the off season. So that's always something I'm trying to be aware of. And then conditioning wise, we kind of hinted at it a little bit there, but it's one of those things like, okay, if you're not doing a lot of conditioning right now, because you're going to come back, it's going to hurt no matter what. I do always put conditioning on there for the guys who need it. And to be honest, my go-to is hitting a bike Tabata every day. If you hit, 4 bike Tabatas a week on the Airdyne and you do that for 8 weeks, 4 by 8 was that 32 bike Tabata, you're going to be fine. You're going to be in a good spot. So do you have any conditioning on there that you give those guys? And do you do anything different? If somebody comes up to you and says like, hey, I want to change my body for next year, I really got to lock in.
Yeah, I mean, if a guy wants to change his body, I have a 5 to 6 day conditioning program.
I was gonna say, do you have a secret program for the guy that's like, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds next year, let's do it? And what is that secret? Because I know mine.
Yeah, I mean, I made it for myself. I made it probably 2.5, 3 years ago. I call it Cardio King. It's like one of my for sale programs, and it's 5 like days you got to do and a 6th optional day, and you're probably putting a good 30 minutes in a day. Some days are more like 20. Some days might bleed into like 40 minutes, but it's a high, medium, low, and you can run with it. You can bike it. You can use sleds. There's different options. It's like a menu of how you want to attack each day, but it sucks. But if I do have a body comp guy, like that's what I'm pushing them towards. And I believe it's 8 weeks long. So very inspired by the 8 weeks out guy, whatever
Joel
his name is. Joel Jameson. Very inspired by some of his work.
And for the longest time, I used to be a big, no, you're a college Division I athlete. Like you don't need a custom program. Like you just need to trust the program and do the team workout with everyone else and you'll get in shape. And what I found is like, if you got a guy and he needs to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, you need to put him on an ass kicker and you need to make sure that he's doing it, and it's like, I've had the unfortunate situation where it's like kid didn't do anything over winter break and came back and was over 350 pounds. And it's like, dude, you were not playing football at that level at this weight. Maybe FBS, not here though.
Yeah.
And, I put him on circuit-based training, like going back to like the old school circuit-based, my YMCA days. And you know what? That stuff still gets results. So that's out there. It's one of those things like if you have enough programming tools in your toolbox, you can solve any problem that comes your way.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do some circuit-based stuff too. I mean, I don't want to say it's every off season, but we've come back from winter break and our first 2 weeks are like a Cal Dietz style GPP phase. And I'm just trying to build an aerobic base for the guys for 2 weeks before we kind of ramp up into, and I would throw in my 8 vectors in there or throw in my 10 by 10. But then after they're done with that, we're doing an EDT circuit, we're doing super endurance, contralateral. Every year is a little different based on the guys that I have and what the schedule is, but we've definitely started quite a few off seasons with a 2-week GPP when they cut back from winter break just to get that base in.
And I'll tell you this one, I know you'll get a kick out of this in terms of circuits. I like to put especially on the upper body days, put something pumpy in there at the end. I'm a connoisseur of the Arm Farm Friday myself, so the kids are expecting that a little bit. And one thing that is always a hit, they ask for it every year, coaches are coming back, is we'll put a clock up Tabata-style, right, 2010, but we pick 3 upper body exercises. So super simple. It'd be like push-ups, rope push-downs, and it might be like, an inverted row, a strap row, or it could even be like a bicep curl. 20 on, 10 off, 8 times, and they rotate through the 3 stations. And the kids eat that up because the pump starts out vicious. You think, oh, we're just doing 20 seconds of push-ups? That's not bad. And then by like rep 6, 7, or 8, they're like, holy cow. And, I have one kid, he's an all-American defensive end, and he would come in and start doing it every day. And he was like, can I do this with like split squats? Can I do this with like leg curls? I'm like, no, we're going to draw the line at like upper body pump, man. Like we can't. And he didn't know what it was called. He kept calling it Tabata. Coach, can you put that Tabata clock on? I'm like, oh man, we got a problem. He's addicted. He's addicted to the gains.
That's a sick man doing that for legs.
Good problem to have. So I mean, he was ripping pull-ups in the locker room after the game. So it just tells you what kind of freak he is.
Nice.
I love it. All right, let's fly this plane. Let's land it home here. You got something coming up, so let's hype that up. Let's talk about that because I'm a part of that as well. I'm excited.
Yeah, Strength on the Gridiron. This is my second clinic that will be done virtually. The last one I did for the sport of ice hockey, which you also spoke at, called Strength on Ice. This one is designed for football coaches, football strength coaches, maybe even a guy like you just talked, Tabata guy, who's just addicted to lifting weights and wants to learn more. But basically what I did was I wanted to get 10 presenters, and I just made a list of what guys I've stolen the most from over the past handful of years, what guys I have the most things saved in my Instagram saved folder, and just kind of went down and wrote down 10 names, and I got all 10 guys that I wanted. So it's a tremendous lineup. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but these are the guys that, I mean, I kind of know you from the Strength on Ice, but like I've never met you in real life. Like the other 9 presenters, I've never met any of these guys, never had a conversation, a couple of DMs here and there with 1 or 2 of them. But I just reached out and was like, I'm putting this thing together. They all said yes. They're all about moving the profession forward and, hopefully teaching some young strength coaches in football, just making an impact. We got one guy presenting on training the quarterback, Nick Giblin, Nick DeMarco, which we just talked about a few minutes ago. He's presenting on training the lineman. And then the other 8 presentations, I don't want to say are broad, but they're not a position-specific presentation. You can go on strength-on.com or go on to CoachTube and see exactly what they're presenting on. But it's pre-recorded presentations. We'll get together for live Zoom Q&As in early 2026, so you can meet the presenter. You could ask your questions. If you can't make the Q&A, then I'll ask the questions for you like a podcast style. We got some awesome giveaways if you're buying in the pre-sale, which ends on Cyber Monday on 12/1. That's when that promotion will end. CEUs from the CSCCA, they've been awarded. NSCA CEUs will be awarded once we're done. We just got to get everything sent in and after all the Q&As to get some NSCA CEUs. And it's for a pretty cheap price of $197. I think, it's under $20 a presentation if you buy in the early bird. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a huge hit. And even if it's not, whatever, I'm going to get to learn from the 10 people I wanted to learn from because selfishly, I wanted to learn from these guys, and I wish I worked with them or lived closer to them so I could just do site visits, and I'm not. So I'm just going to pay them to present.
Part of the reason I started doing the podcast, started doing all this Gridiron Warrior stuff is selfishly is, same as you. I've saved all these DMs. I've saved all these Instagram things and said, man, I got to talk to these coaches. I got to try and learn more. Now, on the flip side, I do want to help coaches too. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think there's a lot of people that are trying to like muddle the profession and make it more complicated than what it is. And they're trying to validate the reason they went to school and did all that. And I get that. But I think there's a lot of good coaches out there that just want to do a good job and want to get the information out there in a simple, straightforward way. And I think that's what you're doing here. You got a great lineup. Selfishly, you got a great lineup here, but I think it's a great opportunity to learn. I think it's a steal at that price. I'm going to put my affiliate link at the bottom so you guys can sign up with me, because I don't want you signing up with any of the other presenters. You sign up with me. Take care of it. But no, I'm excited for it, and I'm excited to listen to everybody else as well. And again, one more time, what's the date on that? And then early bird, they got to sign up before Cyber Monday.
Yeah, the early bird ends at midnight on 12/1. So and then the price will jack up $50. The presentations will be posted on December 1st on the last day of the early bird. You'll own the presentations for life after that.
Yep. So, all right. So we got to just drop the money in now. December 1st, you're good to go. You'll get those just in time for winter break as well. So you can sit down, you can digest them, you can take your notes, and then get rocking and rolling for second semester. You'll have a great game plan and some new tricks up your sleeve.
Yep. That's why it's releasing when it is. Awesome. Yeah.
You got that, Coach. Anything else you want to plug? Anything you want to shout out?
I mean, you could check that out. If any of the things we talked about today with the early off season, I made on Coach Dube a little mini course called After the Final Whistle. I talk about a lot of the methods we just talked about just now. It's $25 on Coach Dube. Basically just made it for me to put my ideas together, and then for my staff. I get a lot of young strength coaches here, so now I can just make them do this mini course that I created. It's like 2.5 hours for $25 of things I do in the early off season.
You know what's funny is I make my interns go through all my stuff too, because they're like, well, why are you doing this exercise and that exercise? And I'm like, you know what? Go through this course first. And if you go through the whole thing, that's how I know you're serious. So, Coach, thank you for carving out the time and making it happen for us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Gridiron Warrior Podcast. If you're serious about building better athletes and building a stronger program, don't stop with just this podcast. I encourage you to check out my new community, the Gridiron Warrior Insiders. Got it set up right here, and there's so many good things in there. So we have a weekly live Q&A where you can ask me questions. I'll answer them for you. I'll go over topics too if we don't have any questions. We'll get something done every week. We have Wildcat webinars. So I'm going to bring in a guest speaker to run the offense for me and have them come in and give us kind of an hour-long presentation about a topic that they're really good at. You'll have early access to every podcast episode, weeks or months before I even decide to launch them, because we've already got 10 to 15 in the books ready to go. The equipment room, right? So anything you need here. So discount codes, affiliate links, bonus content, anything that I think is important, we'll put it in there. Obviously, discounted prices for any of our courses, scores and stops, contact prep, summer program, it's all there. And then the biggest thing for me is that you'll get a free ticket to our live seminar that we're going to host here at Rhode Island this summer. It's going to be sick. You want to get in the community. If you want to keep getting better, you want to help get your program better. Link is in this podcast description. It's in my bio. Check it out. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great day.